optimum, it is more or less than the optimum pH, then what's going to happen? The reaction is going to slow down. And like your temperature, excuse me, extreme variation in pH will also cause denaturation of the enzyme. Okay. So please remember these 3 points. इसमें सबसे पहले तो maximal velocity आपकी substrate concentration की वजह से है, ठीक है. Substrate concentration अगर जितनी ज़्यादा होएगी उतनी enzyme substrate complexes quickly बनेंगे और उतना ही rapidly reaction होगा, उतने और reaction का rate हम कैसे measure करते हैं? By half Vmax. We will go on to discuss that. Now, by when we talk about our Michaelis-Menten kinetics. So Michaelis-Menten kinetics में बेटे मैं बोलती जा रही हूँ, anywhere you need me to repeat, just speak up and ask me to repeat, all right? Michaelis-Menten kinetics में आपको simply यही remember करना है कि equation क्या है? E plus S is equal to ES and it is going to form EP, which is enzyme product. और E plus S का जो K1 है और K minus 1 है और K2 है, what are these? These are the rate constants. So आपको ये जो नीचे बस सिर्फ इतना पता है, derive कैसे करते हैं, ये bigger books में दिखा हुआ है कि how to derive this equation. You are not required to do that. All right. Now over here, as you can see, we have used this equation to find out V naught. Now what is V naught? V naught is the initial velocity of an enzyme reaction, and Vmax क्या है? That's the maximal velocity, ठीक है? और S क्या है? Substrate concentration है. इससे हमें इस equation से हमने V naught कर लेते हैं. Why do we call? What is V naught? Now look at figure 5.10. अगर figure 5.10 में आप देखेंगे, you can see this curve. जो initial velocity है, ठीक है? Initial velocity है, इसको हम V naught कहते हैं. This is the velocity of the when it is the initial velocity when the reaction is starting. अब हम इसको V naught की क्या significance है? V naught की ये significance है कि this will give you the velocity of the reaction and we take it initially. Why don't we take it later on? Because as we have studied that some of the reactions, they are reversible. Enzymes plus substrate जो है, that is going to form a complex, enzyme substrate complex, and as you can see in your Michaelis-Menten equation, enzyme and substrate can dissociate, individuals complex can dissociate into enzyme and substrate. V naught, which is at point 0 in this curve, at this there is no reverse reaction. What is the reaction that is going on? Enzyme plus substrate is equal to enzyme substrate complex, and further on which is going to dissociate into an enzyme and a product is released. ये बात आपको समझ आ गई कि हम V naught क्यों लेते हैं early initial stage of a reaction? क्योंकि इसमें जो reversal of reaction है, ES into E plus S is not taking place. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Then
Ma'am, can you please repeat this? के reversible reaction में कौन सा वाला step E plus S into ES, ये वाला step skip हुआ बीच में?
Skip नहीं हुआ बेटा, ये initial जब beginning जब reaction point 0 पे start हुआ है initially, ठीक है ना? ये इसको हम V naught कहते हैं और ये हम V naught लेते हैं. Initial reaction जब start होता है उस वक्त ये reaction start नहीं होता. Enzyme plus substrate ये भी बना है. अभी सब आपका जो एंजाइम सबस्ट्रेट कॉम्प्लेक्स बना है और ये आगे एंजाइम और प्रोडक्ट बना रहा है. अभी आपकी एंजाइम सबस्ट्रेट कॉम्प्लेक्स भी की जो वापसी होनी है इनटू एंजाइम एंड सबस्ट्रेट वो अभी नहीं स्टार्ट हुई है, ठीक है? Then what you need to do, this is the initial velocity and this we use, this is called V naught and it is used to analyze the enzyme reactions. This means that the rate of reaction is measured as soon as the enzyme and substrate are mixed. At that time, the concentration of the product is very small and therefore the rate of back reaction from product to substrate eventually जो होता है, that is not taking place. अब आपके साथ हमने पढ़ा है ना कि certain reactions are also reversible. Enzyme plus substrate can form the product or product can also be reversed into enzyme and substrate. ये reaction नहीं take place कर रहा, that is why आप अपना V naught calculate कर सकते हैं. Then what is the उसके बाद आपसे ये जो है ना कि अब हमें next चीज जो हमें Michaelis-Menten equation से साथ लेके जानी है वो हमने अपना Km. What do we understand by the Km? Now if you look at figure, जी बेटा.
मैम यानी वी नॉट हम उन रिएक्शंस के लिए फाइंड कर सकते हैं जो इरिवर्सिबल होते हैं, एम आई राइट?
नहीं, आप रिवर्सिबल के लिए भी फाइंड कर सकते हैं, बिकॉज आप इनिशियल स्टेज में लेते हैं ना, तभी तो उसको वी नॉट कहते हैं, व्हेन द रिएक्शन इज जस्ट स्टार्टेड। इसकी सिग्निफिकेंस बल्कि वी नॉट की ज्यादा इनिशियल स्टेज 0 पे लेने के लिए इसलिए है कि इन रिएक्शंस जो है ये रिवर्सिबल जब हो जाएंगे तो फिर आपकी जो वैल्यू है वो नहीं सही रहेगी, बिकॉज व्हेन द रिएक्शन स्टार्ट्स टेकिंग प्लेस इन द ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन, then you will not get an accurate value. That is why you started. V naught is initial velocity. जब शुरू ही हुआ है, जब भी reaction जब start हुआ है, तो पहले reaction plus substrate will form enzyme substrate and then that is going to dissociate into enzyme and product. Initial stage में तो यही होगा ना, जब product बन जाएगा तो फिर आप reversal सोच सकते हैं कि जी product plus enzyme can form substrate again. ये सिंगल डायरेक्शन में जब आपका चलता है इसलिए आप V नॉट लेते हैं. If you read up, initial reaction velocity are used in analyzing the enzyme reaction. This means that this rate of reaction is measured as soon as the enzyme and substrate are mixed. At that time, the concentration of the product is very small. Therefore, the rate of the back reaction from product to substrate can be ignored.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
अब फिगर 5.10 पे आ जाओ, हमने Km को समझना है. ठीक है, अगर आप देखेंगे जो नीचे वाला आपका बबल है उसमें ये लिखा हुआ है कि at low concentration of substrate, when the substrate is low, the velocity of the reaction is the first order reaction. Why do we call it first order reaction? This is the reaction that is proportional to the substrate concentration. ठीक है, at low concentration of substrate, the Km of the reaction is the first order reaction. Small Km का क्या मतलब होता है? Small Km मैं आपको बार बार रिपीट कर रही हूँ. Small Km means the enzyme has high affinity for the reactants, and a large Km means कि enzyme की affinity for the reactant is smaller. इसलिए आप enzyme की efficacy determine कर सकते हैं. अगर enzyme की Km small है, that means कि बड़ी affinity है, फटाफट आपका जो enzyme है वो substrate को bind कर लेगा और rate of reaction जो है ना वो भी ज्यादा हो जाएगा. जब एंजाइम सबस्ट्रेट कॉम्प्लेक्स बनेगा तो एंजाइम सबस्ट्रेट कॉम्प्लेक्स जो है वो आगे एंजाइम सबस्ट्रेट प्रोडक्ट्स भी बनाएगा ना. तो दिस विल हैपन क्विकली, एंड व्हेन दिस हैपेंस देन योर Vmax जो है हाफ Vmax, इन दिस केस Vmax over 2 इज हाफ Vmax. अगर हम इसका आपको देखें, आपका हाफ Vmax जल्दी अचीव हो जाएगा if the Km is smaller. Now, however, if the Km is larger, then what is going to happen? When the Km is larger, then of course Vmax is achieved later on because enzyme की affinity इतनी ज़्यादा नहीं है. Enzyme अपनी pace पे bind करता है with the substrate and the products are being produced. So, girls, keep your mic muted unless you want to ask me a question. Now, next we need to know, you might be asking the Viva, what are first order reactions and what are zero order reactions? Now, again looking at figure 5.10, at high concentration of the substrate, the velocity of the reaction is a zero order reaction. That is, it is constant and independent of the substrate concentration. So obviously, अगर आप एक reaction में substrate को increase करेंगे तो enzyme substrate binding जो है वो बढ़ेगी ना. अगर आपका enzyme ज़्यादा है, substrate कम है, reaction velocity और है, और अगर आप as you start increasing your substrate, the reaction velocity will keep on increasing till you know all the enzyme is bound. तो फिर वो आपकी level off हो जाएगी, जैसे यहाँ पे level off हो गई है. If you look at the hyperbolic curve, yes, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता उसकी level off होना शुरू हो जाती है. The sharp rise on the y-axis जो है वो नहीं होता, gradual rise की तरफ चला जाता है because more and more enzyme is bound with the substrate. Now these at high concentration, what is going to happen? At high concentration, enzyme already काफी ज्यादा है, तो enzyme substrate complex बन जाता है. जब enzyme substrate complex आपका बन जाता है, आपका Vmax जो है वो achieve हो गया होता है, फिर जो है ना आपका further addition of substrate जो है, that is not going to increase the velocity of the reaction, as you can see in our figure. यहाँ पे आपकी dash line है, ठीक है? Can you see this? At a high concentration of the substrate, the velocity of the reaction is zero order, that is, it is constant and independent of substrate